everyone. Welcome to Product Innovation Update session. I know that some of you have been waiting for this for so long. I hope you're going to enjoy that. Today, it's going to be me in this session, your Fasi Ezgi. I'm part of ISEC International 2020 team as the Product Innovation Manager. And before that, I was Product Head for GE. Some of you might know me from back then. So objectives of the session is very, very simple. The first one is we're going to recap what are the projects that I'm talking about, what kind of updates you can expect. And then we're going to go through all of these projects one by one. And you will also hear if there are going to be any call to actions or next steps for you from all of these projects. So let's start with a simple recap. What do I mean by product innovation and what are the projects? So let's talk about what is the objective of product innovation in 2020, why there was a product innovation manager in the ISEC International team. We had two main reasons. One of them was how can we find alternative solutions to exchange, because that was our main job, right? Doing exchange, delivering exchange experiences. So then what can be the alternative? And second question that we wanted to answer is how can we find new products that would be a new revenue source? So these two reasons actually started the product innovation journey for the 2020 team of ISEC International, which was from the beginning of August until it's going to be until mid-December. So with these objectives, in IC 2020 to GT Track, I launched two projects. GT Track would remember those. The first project was partly remote global talent, global teacher, which is mainly offering a remote phase in the global talent and global teacher experiences. Second one was virtual professional program, offering a fully virtual professional program. And last one was local professional program, a professional program where we would offer locally sourced talent to the companies. So before I take you through all of these projects one by one and tell you what was the progress, I want to recap innovation process for you. So if some of you know about design thinking, you will already know what I'm going to say in the next 1 minute. If not, don't worry, this is not another framework that you will need to know or another thing that you will need to recognize later on. It's quite simple because as I mentioned that we wanted to do product innovation for certain reasons, right? And we needed a framework that can guide us. And this framework is basically helping us understand what the issue is and turn our idea into a viable product for our market where the buyers, where the customers want to buy that. And with that, the process is very simple. First one is you understand your problem, you understand what questions that needs to be answered. Then you empathize. Basically, you go to your customers, potential users, you understand their needs. Then you start building solutions. In the beginning, you had some questions, right? With those insights, you start building answers for those. Once you have those answers, then you create your prototype, basically a draft of a product. How would it look like? How would our solutions become a product? And after that, you start testing. Basically, you put your prototype out in the market and you see how your customers are reacting. Do they like it? Do they buy it? And depending on this, you start creating your business model. And if this testing stage is successful, where your buyers are positive, they buy it, they're happy with your product, then you start implementation. By implementation, you basically start doing investments so that this product can be part of your portfolio, your day-to-day operations, and you can send it to across all of your offices. So this was the process. And for each project that I mentioned in the beginning, we're going to go through them one by one. And before I start doing that, as you know, this is a keynote session. We won't have time at the end for questions. So please take note of this link and submit all of your questions throughout the sessions. I will be getting notifications about this. And I'm right now in Turkey, so it's quite late. And tomorrow morning, I will be checking all your questions and answering them. If you are the person who asked a question, I will be tagging you in the answer, so you will also get a notification. And for all the questions that were asked at the end of this session, I'm also going to give you the link of answers. Cool. So let's start. Our first project is partly remote, global talent, global teacher. So let's start with the context. So in May 2020, if some of you remember, there was a project called Remote Future, and the research about that was completed. Basically, how can we offer semi-remote experiences? How can we make sure that global talent and global teacher are becoming more flexible when the external world is changing and we are not able to control that change? We had that research done. However, whatever we had was not tested with customers. That means we did not have enough opportunities, or we did not have approvals to say that this is working out. We just had an idea, but we didn't know if our customers would like that idea. So then we realized that we still need to do that. We still need to test it and see how it works. Because we did not have that decision, this idea, if this would this would work or not, we were also not saying that, hey, we should make the investments. So this was one of the decisions that we were lacking. Should this be something permanent so we can do more investments in the platform, or should it be still temporary that we observe the market? So this was the context. With that context, we created a project where the objective was to take that project from the piloting stage and put it in the global testing stage, meaning that we take everything and we send it to all the entities and we tell them you can use it from this moment onwards, and then we observe the results. And if the market is reacting positively, then we basically make a decision either to keep this feature permanently and make investments, or remove it and say that this is not working at all. And the deliverables of the project were like this. First, we had to finalize the feature, the rules, the policies, how would entities start working, what would be developer positions. And then we would also need to do some temporary solutions in the platforms. Although we didn't want to do any big investments, but we still needed those temporary things. Then we also wanted to add details to APIP and APP. Then we created a temporary auditing system with ICB and developers, releasing features to the network, tracking the results, gathering insights from the network about the market interest, making decision. And by making decision, it goes to two ways, right? First, it can be a negative decision where we see that there is no interest, this entire testing thing fails, we don't have opportunities, or we don't have applicants. So then we say this is not working. We would just remove this feature from everywhere, and then we would close the project. And the second way would be basically it's positive, it's successful, people want it. So then we would first review what's happening with the auditing system, and we would make it more optimal. And second would be we would start scoping those permanent changes and new investments that we would want to make for this feature. So let's check the progress right now. So the final version of the feature, this was actually finalized around July, and I shared some of these pieces in IC 2020. However, we were still waiting for these temporary platform solutions. That's why we launched these things to you with the materials in August 2020. Right now, all the materials related to this feature can be found on this link. The other thing is finalizing these temporary solutions. As I mentioned, these were also done in August 2020. What do I mean by temporary solutions is, for example, when you go to YOP right now, when you go to isec.org, you're going to see a filter for partly remote. When you go to Expa, you're going to see a filter for partly remote. When you go to a partly remote opportunity in isec.org, you're going to see a pop-up there. When you click on it, it tells you what is this about, what does partly remote mean. So all of these things were the temporary solutions we had for the platforms. Then we added the details to APIP and APP. These were legislated in July 2020. One thing we had was to create a temporary auditing system with ICB and developers. This was needed because as I mentioned, we were not able to make very big investments. And this particular feature needed certain sections in our opportunities. And normally for global talent, we have business rules in our platforms. For example, for global talent, if your opportunity type is long duration, you cannot add a slot for short duration. It's not possible, and this is how it's coded. But for example, we are not able to do the things the partly remote requires. The things like, for example, remote duration should only be maximum half of the total duration, right? So as we do not have those investments yet, we had to do this manually. And this manual system was ICB auditing the opportunities and seeing if they're really complying with the policies or not. So we had that temporary system. It was it was finalized at the end of July, and we also launched it to the network in August 2020. So then, although we told you about these things in July, we launched everything properly to you in August. And since then, we started the global testing, meaning that from the mid-August, all the entities were able to use this feature. And we started observing the entities. By that, what I mean is that with ICB, we had continuous checkpoints to understand what are the risks, what is the state, if things are going positive or not. And we also started collecting regular insights from regional offices and also from global partners to see what are the entities thinking, what are the partners from certain regions thinking. So then with these insights, we were able to make a decision. So the last part is make a decision is in October and November, especially, we started seeing an increasing trend, a number of part remote opportunities. In September, the picture was not that bright, but after October, we started having more and more opportunities and also more applicants in the area. So then we realized that because second wave of COVID-19 was resulting in more mobility restrictions, entities were either converting their global talent opportunities to partly remote, or they were changing their sales strategies and they started opening more partly remote opportunities. So then we realized that this thing is becoming more relevant to the market, but also to our entities. So then we made the decision that this needs to stay permanently, and we started making investments in this feature accordingly. So after we took this decision in October, we scoped the changes that we would need for the platforms with the platforms team. And the second thing we did was with ICB, we also optimized the auditing routine because we realized that when there are more opportunities coming up, the process had to be more efficient and faster. And this was also finalized in the beginning of November. So this is the current auditing routine. So at any time of the week, your LCVPs, you can submit the opportunities for tagging. ICB is checking these opportunities in Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And ISEC International is tagging them either on the same day or the morning of the next day. And overall, in the project, we have a couple of deliverables left. Some of them will be in 2020 term itself, but some of them will be done only in the first and second quarter of 2021 term. The first one is we will be adding the opportunity audit policies to APIP. So as I just mentioned, we legislated APIP in the middle of July in IC 2020, right after IC 2020. However, the opportunity audit system was only finalized at the end of July because we had a lot of stakeholders involved in that, developers, ICB, me, Talas. So we had to wait a bit for everyone to actually confirm that. So then we couldn't add that process in APIP, and this is creating a lot of confusion. So right now we are trying to add these things to APIP. We are creating our proposals for that. So then the entire thing can be clearer for you, but also for your LCVPs and members. So whenever they read the policy document, they understand what exactly needs to be done. The second thing is completing the changes in the platforms. So we have two changes that we actually scoped. The first one is right now we don't have a remote realized status. So if you want to, for example, let's say that you have a partly remote approval, you can actually select a button that says remote realized. You can select the remote realization start date and end date, but this would not change the status of your applicant. This would keep it in the approved status. So this was the temporary solution that we came up with back then. However, as this is becoming something permanent, this is also one investment that we need to make, that having a proper status of remote realized in our customer flow. The second one is, as I mentioned, in our opportunity creator, we need certain sections for part remote opportunities so we can explain certain things to our customers, right? Also that we can also get rid of the manual tracking systems like opportunity auditing. So then we will be also adding new sections to OP creator. So whenever you add a part remote opportunities, the platform would give you those sections, and then we wouldn't have any auditing system, any manual auditing system for opportunities. However, these two developments, you should not be waiting them in 2020 term. You should be only waiting them in 2021 term. So then with these, remember what I mentioned to you in the beginning, how for us the innovation process looked like. When it comes to partly remote GT, this is how it was mainly. The understanding part, basically clarifying the problem, we did it in March. And in April, Ali was having research and interviews with pilot entities. And then in May, we were able to finalize our solutions, what exactly we want to do. In June, we finalized all the policies or final shape of the future. And also we scoped the temporary solutions we would have for the platforms. And in August, we finished our preparations and we told you, hey, this is the future and this is how you can use it. And since then, we have been observing it. And in October, we made the decision of implementing. And hopefully around March, April, maybe May 2021, everything will be completed. So overall, the notes and recommendations from this project is first one, as I mentioned, auditing process is not going to stay forever. So far, it was to ensure that when we did not have enough features in the platform, when we only had temporary solutions, auditing process was also our manual solution to make sure that all opportunities are following the policies. The other thing is my personal recommendation is please don't be over optimistic about borders and mobility. Sometimes media is misleading us, so please be prepared. And by prepared, I just mean that train your network just in case. Be ready to convert your opportunities at any point of time. It's better that you're prepared right now, so later on if you need it, you don't need to waste time with training them and onboarding them. So train them right now and make sure that they know everything about it. They read the materials that we have, they talk to the other entities that are doing this, so then they're prepared to implement this right away. And the other thing is, if you are running part remote just now, or if you want to do it in the future, get in touch with the entities that have been doing it, learn the tips, learn recommendation, learn which industries have been responding to them positively. There is a lot that we can learn from each other. The best way is to just ask them. And when you have any doubt, first you can read APIP, then you can check the materials that we have in the hub. You can always talk to the regional office. And also if you have any specific questions about the policies and the rules, you can talk to your ECB, and or you can just submit your questions to ICB. So overall, when we look at the results, this is as of Monday. These are the IGT global talent opportunities that were tagged partly remote. Congratulations, we see that there's a lot of entities from Americas, but especially Brazil, Mexico, and Panama for having these many opportunities. But also there are a lot of entities in the region, for example, Chile and Peru with a lot of openings as well in partly remote. So this is a kind of huge success because this was something really new. Moving your network, getting them do this very fast is not an easy thing. So congratulations. And for all the other entities, if you want to learn how they have been doing it, just drop them a message, and not only to MCVPs, but also talk to their LCVPs to also understand how they have been talking to their clients and how they've been trying to convince them. And for Global Teacher, although the numbers are less, we still have some entities. Thank you so much for taking initiative and also trying to use this for Global Teacher as well. I hope that these numbers will increase in the future in case we still have the mobility issues that you are not able to do physical realizations. So good luck all of you with partly remote. And this is the link that I'm just dropping here. At any time when you want to look at the partly remote resources, you can go here and you can check them. So now let's go to our second project, which is Local Professional Program. Let's start with the context again. The context is what we know. There are restrictions for the travel. We're not able to do exchange. What do we do? What is the alternative? So then the question is, can the alternative be offering local profiles to the companies? Can this be a solution? But if this is the solution, then there are some follow-up questions. The first follow-up question is, if we are telling them we can bring you local talents, how are we going to be competitive in the market? What's going to be the advantage that we're going to give to them? Because there are a lot of other companies, job boards that are definitely more successful, and they definitely have more money and resources than ISEC. So how are we going to be competitive in that market? The second question is, what's going to be the unique sales point of ISEC? Again, this is very related to the competitive advantage that we are trying to create. Like, how are we going to keep ISEC very unique compared to all of the other companies in the same market? So then with these questions in mind, we created the objective of the project in this way. So we want to research, create a prototype, and test the local professional program where the talent offered is our membership and alumni. Because we are trying to come up with a unique point, then we said, why don't we use our membership and alumni as our uniqueness? Because we can argue that the talent that we want to offer you has already practical experience, and we can tell them that those are the skills that they gained through their ISEC experience. So this was the type of research that we wanted to do, the type of prototype that we wanted to create. The deliverables of the projects were like this: selecting pilots, then designing your research, doing the research, consolidating findings, then creating a prototype, preparing for testing, doing the testing, and then documenting the findings. But as you see, this was the first version. So now let's see what happened with the project. So this was the timeline according to the deliverables that I mentioned. Ideally, we were supposed to start testing in October, and we would already have something documented right now. However, this is what happened. We opened this pilot applications, and in the first round, among all of the applications that we got, only 3 applicants were eligible. Only 3 of them were qualified, because we had certain requirements from the pilots, and 3 was the amount of entities that were able to fulfill them. So as you can imagine, this was not enough. This was not enough for us to go ahead. So then we had to reopen the pilot's applications. However, when you reopen an application, it would mean that you're going to lose at least 2 to 3 weeks. And as you have seen the timeline of the project, losing around 2 to 3 weeks means that you are not able to deliver certain critical parts of your project. So then we also had to change the deliverables of the project. The scope and objective changed from prototyping and testing. We removed those, and the project turned into an only research project. So we would select pilots, we would do a research with them, and we would consolidate the findings, and that would be the end of the project. So then with that, we opened second round of applications, but only 1 entity applied in that second round. And after that, we decided that we would not continue with this project anymore, because apparently it was not a priority for the entities, or entities did not have extra resources to also invest in this as well. So then we said that instead of maybe doing this with the pilots, we can at least talk to the global partners and try to get insights from them. And we decided to do this in October. However, when we came to October, we realized that in Q3 of 2020 year, which is basically October, September, and August, we had a lot of things that were going on in I think international team when it comes to like how we are engaging with the partners, because we had a lot of things to offer to them, right? Renewing our contracts, bringing them new ideas from the BD team. So then this project, local talent project, would not be one of those priorities. It would not go into the top 5. This was one reason. And the second reason was the timeline that we would expect. So if we are taking an idea to the global partners in October, we wouldn't be able to deliver anything about it until April or May 2021 as ISEC International team. Why? So in the next AI team, they still have transition in November, and in December, they do planning. In January is their first month when they're adapting to the things. In March, they have a very big conference. So that means in February, they're working very hard for that conference. And then after the conference, they can work on this thing, which is already April. So then there would be 6-month gap between the time we communicate an idea to the partner until we actually deliver something to them. So we didn't want to set those wrong expectations. We didn't want to give them promises or any expectations that we couldn't fulfill. So that's why instead of going through with the project, we basically transitioned it to the elect team, and we wanted them to make that decision. So we explained them what happened so far in the project. We told them what all the engagements we had with either entities or the companies who told us about this idea. So then they were very well aware about where did this idea come from and what happened in the project. So then the way forward of this project would be, if ISEC International 2021 team decides to work on this again, you will hear about this when they launch their plannings. They might include it, they might not include it. This will be the decision that they will make. So then when their planning output is launched, you can look if this is going to be there or not. Cool. So that was it with the local project. And let's go to now the project that many of you have been wondering, which is a virtual professional program. So context, let's start with that. The main question was the same. When there are travel restrictions, how do we find alternatives? And can a fully virtual program be that alternative? And then follow-up questions to this problem would be, if it's fully virtual, would the young people pay for it? Because imagine from your side, there are a lot of job portals that you can apply freely without paying anything. Why would you pay for a virtual internship? What would be the reason? What kind of benefits should we offer to you so that this program is going to be more attractive, that will make you want to pay for it? And other questions were, if this is a fully virtual program, how are we going to make sure that it delivers leadership, or there will be an element of cross-cultural experience? So then with these in mind, we had this scope, very simple: research, prototype, and test a virtual professional program. And the deliverables of this were exact the same deliverables of the local project, because these were actually twin projects with different market scopes. But the deliverables were exactly the same. We select pilots, we do a research, we consolidate findings, create a prototype, test it, and see what happens. Now let's go one by one and see how the project looked like. And overall, this was also the same timeline. And the first thing we did was selecting the pilots. In the beginning, we selected 18 IGT, 17 OGT pilots. However, this number has changed over the time, as I have been pushing the pilot entities a lot. They knew that this was a very strict project, a lot of deadlines, a lot of follow-up messages from me, a lot of things that they will need to do. Right now, these are the list of entities that we have in the project. We have in total of 6 pilots from Americas. They've been doing very great. All of them are in the testing stage right now. But overall, we have a lot of entities from different regions. So this is also giving a lot of confidence to this project, that whatever insights we're going to get, it's going to be as diverse as possible. And hopefully it's going to work out in the market. And after we selected the pilots, the part was designing the research. So we completed this in the beginning of August, and this is how the overall picture looked like. So we had some questions in the beginning, like, right, how would this product would look like? So then we categorized all of these questions, and we had these things at the end. We want to know how the value proposition would work. We wanted to know the product features, duration preferences, work fields, benefits. We wanted to know more about what customers are expecting from customer journey, something about pricing, the charging stages for IGT. When should we charge them? How much do they want to be charged? About the potential brand of this product, or the legalities, the contracts. What would be the contract between the participant and the company? So all of these things were the questions that we had, and then we started writing down what kind of data that we need. Primary data it means that it's the data that you collect from your direct stakeholders. In this case, for us, they were the partners and our EPs. So then we needed all of these data from them. And secondary data mean that we go to external resources, such as the government websites, the statistics websites, academic articles, website articles, and checking if there are any research that happen externally and that can still help us answer the questions that we have. And then after these, we started writing down questions and see like how overall the research picture would look like. And then we had this. We had 10 elements in our research. We had for youth side 3 elements mainly: interviews that were done by the pilots. We sent surveys to our YOP signups. And then in isec.org, we opened polls. So the visitors were able to answer the poll if they were interested in virtual professional program. And for companies, we had 4 elements. Pilots interviewed the companies. We tried to collect some insights from global partners. We sent surveys to POP signups. And then we also opened a poll in POP. Then also pilots send us their competitor analysis, and also they did secondary research. And the last one was them having meetings with their legal advisors and collecting insights that we would need for this project. So after we designed the research, we of course started executing it. We onboarded the pilots in the beginning of October, August, and we had a very short deadline of completing everything by the beginning of September. I'm very proud of all the pilot entities. They worked a lot, and we collected a lot of responses. And when you look at the results, that you see that it's incredible. Almost all of them are above 100%. This was an amazing research, which also makes us very confident that the insights we got from this are hopefully gonna be valid for the markets. You see that there are only two weak points, which is one, global partner service. They basically told us that they were not interested in the type of project that we were working on, because we told them this would be a short duration, and they were mostly interested in getting people for at least 6 months. And the second one was company service. That was also mainly because we realized that although we sent the service to the POP signups, many of those POP signups were actually ISECers, or the young people who are wrongfully or by mistake they signed up on POP instead of isec.org. So that's why at the end, when we started deleting all of these false responses, we ended up only with 52 answers. That was not enough for us to create valid insights. So we actually did not take any conclusions from the company surveys, and we relied on the answers that our pilots brought to us by the interviews. So this is also how it looked like for each pilot's entity. I wanted to show this so you can see how diverse it is. This is one of the strengths of the project, because when we have all of these answers from different entities, different regions, different scale of entities, different markets, we are able to say that whatever we are creating is supposed to answer very different realities. And for OGT, it's the same as well. We have a lot of responses from very different type of markets. So then we are able to say that whatever we created, it's going to hopefully help their markets. So after we finished this research, we started consolidating the findings. We did this within 1 week after the research was completed. And we had a sheet where we mapped out all of these things. And a couple of things about that part, the consolidating part, was we just had a couple of findings, and we immediately started creating the prototype, and we released this in September, as I mentioned. Another thing about the prototype is the website creation is still going. I will also highlight this a bit more. One thing that I want to tell you before I tell you the details about the prototype: this is just a prototype. It can change, because we still need to take this to the customers. They need to experience it. They need to tell us if they want to change anything or not. So do not think that any detail that I'm going to tell you right now is going to stay as they are, because they might change. So if 5 months later you're going to hear about this project again, you might hear a very different version. So do not take these things as given. It's just a prototype. It might evolve and change over the time. But for now, the prototype we have, whatever we are testing with the market, is like this: minimum 6 weeks, maximum 12 weeks. We don't have a specific age target. It's from 18 to 30. We gave flexibility to the entities to choose the target they want to have. Organization target is companies. This is not a prototype for educational institutions or NGOs. For now, we don't have work field restrictions, but we have focus work fields. These are according to the insights that we got from the interviews and surveys. And one important thing is that when we had the legal research, legal insights, we realized that the best way, the easiest way, would be having freelancing contract between the participants and the companies, because that would be more beneficial for the companies, as they would avoid a lot of documentation and bureaucracy, and they would start working with that person very faster. But keep that in mind, that it's just a recommendation. So what we did is that we told entities that, hey, this is our recommendation, and this is the reason why, and what you need to do is talk to your legal advisors and follow what they are guiding you to do so. All right. So then let's look at it a bit more. Remember the question that we had in the beginning, right? If this is just a virtual program, how do we make this more attractive? So then the answer that we try to provide is that we should not treat this as just an internship product because we cannot compete. So then we started treating this as a professional program. So then we started adding components where that young participant can improve their career path. How can this happen? First one is making that internship a bit more high quality. For us, that meant that they need to get a compensation. That needs to be a paid opportunity. The second thing is trainings. We will be sending them training content, so then after their experience starts, they can basically just open a website that we have and they can access those content. The training topics will be about remote work, but they are categorized under LDQs. For example, there's a topic for time management, and it's under solution oriented. There is a topic about personal branding, and it's under, if I'm not wrong, self-aware. So all of these things are actually very practical to their day-to-day work, but we also want to start engaging them with LDQs. So that's how we try to create an education cycle for them. The other important thing is that one unique thing ISEC can bring to them is networking, right? Meeting as many people as possible. So then we are asking, and we are actually making this mandatory, that throughout the experience, the participant is going to receive at least 2 networking invitations, one from the host LC, one from the home LC. And in this way, they can meet young professionals from their local area, and also they can meet young professionals from the area of where the company is located. And the last part would be a certification. So as you see, this overall looks like more than just an internship with a lot of additions. And that's how hopefully we will make this program stand out compared to all the other competitors we have in the market. When it comes to the rules, we have like only 3 rules right now. Rules/details, but again, if the prototype changes, these will also change. 2 important things that you need to know. First one is there are no minimum working hours for this, so this can be a part-time project or even like work 1 day a week project. So we are keeping flexible so that the companies can choose what kind of profile they require. And when it comes to extensions, so far we're not allowing extensions more than after 12 weeks. That's also to make sure that the testing period is a fixed timeline. So it's not going to take years. But however, as I mentioned, if the prototype changes, these rules can also change. Let's go. The other part is value propositions. Quickly to go through, basically youth value propositions and benefits looks like that we are promoting this as a career opportunity, as an overall professional experience opportunity, rather than only highlighting this as an internship or work opportunity. And when it comes to organizations, we're trying to highlight the fact that this is slightly more affordable, we are quicker, and then at the end, our talent pool is also diverse because we have many OG entities from different regions. Then let's look at the next one. So as this entire opportunity has a different nature of work, that also means that the standards are different. So instead of this 16 standards that we have in Global Talent and Global Teacher, right now we have these 10 standards. And these are basically to make sure that whatever we are promising them in this experience are part of our standards. And after this, when we knew that how the product is going to look like, we started preparing for testing. We created program policies. Basically, we took APIP and we adapted it according to our this product. We called it AVPPP, ISEC Virtual Professional Program Policies. And then entities, after they knew about this prototype, they also set their main target audience. So basically, they chose, this is the work field I'm going to focus on. This is the backgrounds of young people that I'm going to focus on. And then with this information, they also did an IR alignment. And they also set monthly goals of opens, approvals, and realizations. Then they started working on their pricing and contracts for this program. And then we also set goals for testing, because remember that you have your prototype, then you go to testing, but you need to set certain goals So then you are able to say that once I achieve these, I can say that this works. So then I can go to the implementation stage. So then we created these goals, and then we started building a website. Right now we are building basically an Expo version B or YOP version B, let's say, where we are going to take the customers from visitor until they're finished, and the pilot entities are going to be able to use that platform. These are some screenshots. These are some screenshots from the documents. The first one, as I mentioned, the policy documents, and the middle and the right ones are the initial attraction documents that we sent to the pilots. So when they start attraction, you can use these. They can use these. This has basic information about the program details and also the value propositions and the benefits. And also, as I mentioned, when they align their SND and IR, we also store that information to understand what the entities are going to do. So if you're IGT, then you're able to see what kind of profiles that OGTs are going to focus on, for example. And these were the initial goals of pilots. Essentially, the goals were quite high. We also did not expect the website to take as much time as it is taking right now. So then they were not able to start the testing in October, actually. It took a bit of time. And that's why these goals are changing at the moment. And this was a situation for contracts and pricing as of Monday. It actually changed since then, but we were actually tracking the entities when it comes to their contracts and pricing, because only if they complete these, they can join the testing. Means that if they have these two things, they can open opportunities and they can get signups, or they can get applicants if they're OGT. And I mentioned that we also did a testing plan. We divided this into two. One was for attraction, to check mainly two things. First, are we able to get opportunities? Second, are we able to get the right applicants for those opportunities? So the first one is to check the number of openings, and the second one is to check the number of acceptance. And the other part of the testing was experience, because remember that two of the questions that we had in the very beginning of the project is, how would it work if it's virtual? That how do we deliver the leadership? How do we make sure that there is a cross-cultural element? And all of these things are all about the experience, right? So then in the experience part, we are basically trying to check the NPS scores and how the LPS/LDA scores would look like. And testing the prototype with the market. As of Monday, we had 7 entities, incoming entities in testing. This increased also, I think 1 or 2 entities joined since then. And we had eight entities in testing. I will show you the names. We have the website in progress. We are trying to make it as fast as possible. So far, what I can tell is it's definitely way faster than making a permanent investment. Hopefully, it's going to answer the needs of the testing period. This is the screenshots from the website. The left one is the landing page for youth, and the right one is the landing page for the organizations. And this is the screenshot from the expo of this program, where the entities can go and check their signups, their organizations. They can manage their opportunities and their applications. And this is, again, as of Monday, this was the situation with the entities, with the testing. We had 2 published opportunities, one from Myanmar, one from Serbia, and we did not have any applicants for those opportunities officially yet. So by keeping all of these in mind, the next steps in the project are like the following. So we're still working on the website. There's still a lot of things to be completed, and we're also observing the testing results, seeing what the entities are doing. As you see, there are only 2 published opportunities, so it's very early to say that this is working 100%. So, and without knowing this, without having more performance in the market, we are not able to make a decision, and we cannot launch this to the global market. And when it comes to pilot entities, that was the question that many of you had. Are there going to be applications for more pilot entities? So you're going to learn about this after AI 2021 plan launch, because they will need to assess if they're going to need more pilot entities. And if they need, why would they need them? Would they need it for testing, or would they need it for more research? So wait for the AI 2021 plan output. And until then, please do not rely on this product. Do not expect that that, hey, for sure they're going to open it, because we don't know what's going to happen. So until then, please focus on currently available solutions, which are partly remote, GT, and EWA. And if there will be any pilot applications, you will anyway know about them soon when they launch the plan outputs. And I think that's going to be in January, maybe. And my personal recommendation is, if the pilot applications are open, think twice before applying, because the project requires a lot of resources from the entities, time, HR, not only from MCs, but also from the LCs. And also it might require certain investments. As I mentioned, we require contracts from the entities, contract reviews by lawyers. And for some entities, this might be a financial investment. So think twice, and the best you can do would be actually to talk to one of the already existing pilot entities to learn about their recommendations. So now let's recap and finish this session. So remember, the first part was about part remote, GTA and GTE. I mentioned that this was a solution that was available for everyone. It was for medium and long duration GTA and GTE. In the upcoming months, you can expect more improvements in the platforms. And if you need any support, please do not hesitate to approach regional office. And if you have policy related questions, you can talk to ECB and ICB. For local professional program, we mentioned that the project has been canceled for either lack of attention or because it was not a high priority. So there is no decision whether it will be rediscussed or not. If it is going to be discussed, you will know about this when AI 2021 team releases their plans. And for virtual professional program, we are right now in the stage of testing it with the pilot entities. We don't have enough results to say that it is 100% working or it's not working. So we still need to test more. And at the moment, there is no decision about if we will going to have more pilot entities. This decision is going to come from the AI 2021 team. So it would be great that you wait for their planning output, so then you can also more know about the future of this project. So while closing this session, I want to remind this slide that this was all about all of these projects, all of the stages that we are following. And hopefully this is going to make it more clear for you to what to expect or not to expect, even for the future innovation projects. And also this is the last slide, that if you have any questions, please submit them there. And this will be the link to the answers. You can go and check to the previously asked questions from the other regions and submit your questions at any time. I will be responding them tomorrow morning, my time, which will be your night. So you will get notification from me whenever the answers are there. Thank you so much, and enjoy the rest of OP Summit and RPMs, and enjoy the rest of your day. Bye-bye.
Si la conga a mí me llama con su ritmo contagioso, yo me pongo bien sabroso y me voy para allá. Yo me voy para allá. ¿Quién me llamó? Yo. ¿Quién dijo yo? Yo. ¿Quién me llamó? Yo. ¿Quién dijo yo? Yo. Si la conga a mí me llama, yo voy para allá. Si la conga a mí me llama, yo voy para allá. Con mi conga de los hoyos yo voy a arrollar. Si la conga a mí me llama, yo voy para allá. Arrollando, vacilando. Si la conga a mí me llama, yo voy para allá. 1, 2 y 3, arrollando que chévere. Si la conga a mí me llama, yo voy para allá. Yo me voy para allá, yo me voy para allá. Si la conga a mí me llama, yo voy para allá. ¡Suena, trompeta! ¿Cómo está la conga? Buena. ¿Me gusta la conga? Rica. ¿Cómo está la conga? Buena. ¿Me gusta la conga? Rica. Mira, no me quiero arrollar, que yo quiero arrollar, yo quiero mumbachar. No me empujen, que yo quiero arrollar, que yo no quiero problemas, échame para allá. No me empujen, para allá, para allá, que yo quiero para allá, para allá. Misericordia. No me empujen, que yo quiero arrollar. No me empujen, no me empujen, no me empujen, que yo quiero arrollar. Oye, que no me empujen, que no me empujen, no me empujen, que yo quiero arrollar. Ay, que no me empujen, que yo quiero arrollar. Trocha arriba y trocha abajo, que yo quiero arrollar. Trompeta, que yo quiero arrollar, 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 que yo quiero arrollar. ¿Qué quiere la gente? ¡Conga! ¿Qué pide la gente? ¡Conga! ¿Qué quiere la gente? ¡Conga! ¿Qué pide la gente? ¡Conga! Si me piden conga, conga, conga le voy a dar. En San Pedrito, conga le voy a dar. En Mexiquito, conga le voy a dar. Allá en Los Hoyos, conga le voy a dar. Bajando troncha, conga le voy a dar. Pa' los cangrejitos, conga le voy a dar. Oye, y me fui arrollando.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the keynote for this evening. I hope you all are having a great day so far. If you didn't get the chance to meet me this morning and check in, my name is Angela Schmitz, and I am your MCVP OP of the United States. And as I mentioned this morning, if you are interested in finding your way to my heart, these are the 3 things you need to know about me. Avid coffee drinker, tequila lover, and obsessed with Google Sheets. So hopefully all of you guys out there will get me these things, I guess. So now we're going to start our keynote about working in a pandemic. And of course, this is something that is very relevant for all of us. And as somebody who was an MC member before the pandemic, during it, and now still during it, this topic was really important for me to get to give a session to you guys. And I learned a lot while researching and being able to bring this information to you. So I hope that today you guys have entered the space being ready to look at how can we look at working in a pandemic in a new perspective, because I've learned a lot researching it. So the first part, I have a few questions for you guys. So I ask that you take a moment, you breathe after the crazy day that you've had, and you reflect on these few things. The first is, how has Isaac changed since the beginning of the pandemic? What have you seen as different? And what's the same? The next question is, how have our operational processes changed? Think about from marketing all the way until if you've had a realization, what processes have actually changed and what has remained the same? Give yourself a moment to think of little instances, little examples of things that have changed. And next I ask you in just a yes or no, and please send it in the chat for everyone to just kind of get a sense of how we're all feeling, is one, do you think we've accepted our new reality? This question is a big one for myself as well. And really admit to yourself, do you think we've accepted it? And next is, do you think we have adapted to our new reality? We like to think that we would, but I am curious to see what your guys' answers are. So please send those in the chat. Okay. So when I was answering these questions for myself and I was thinking about the examples that I had, and the changes of how ISAC has changed and maybe remain the same, I kind of had the answer that no, I hadn't accepted our new reality. And I kind of had to answer no, that we hadn't adapted truly. And I saw this quote from a consultancy agency. And it says, in this new context, most organizations have simply transplanted existing processes to remote work contexts, imitating what had been done before the pandemic. And I think this really applies to how ISAC and most of the world approached this shift in the workplace. We just took what we were doing before and tried to communicate it and transplant it into this virtual sense. Let's just do ISAC, but let's do it on Zoom or do it on Google Hangouts. And is that working? Is that us accepting our reality or us continuing to fight it? And it comes a certain point when we have to realize that there are changes that we can make to shift in a more positive way. So how has it changed? Why is it so important that we need to know? Is one, 12% of workers want to return to full-time office work, only 12%. And 72% want a hybrid remote office model moving forward. We're seeing that people have actually adapted to this change of moving to remote work. The next is that 41% of workers say that they are more productive than they had been before, and 28% say that they are as productive as before. So we're seeing also a shift in the way that people work and their ability to be more productive while they're at home. And then interesting one here is that the volume of job searches using the remote filter on LinkedIn has increased about 60% since the beginning of March. And the share of remote job applications has increased nearly 2.5 times globally from March. This means that people are searching for remote jobs as well. They are shifting and allowing themselves to look for remote work. So what do all of these changes, these facts about the workplace mean for us? And it's that it is very likely that remote work will stay as a permanent change in the workplace. That 72% of people that want this hybrid means that companies are eventually going to listen to their employees and they're going to make these changes, especially when they're seeing that people are more productive at home. And productivity in the workplace has increased, causing companies to look at work in a new perspective. If people are going to be more productive at home, how much time and different ways do they need to work? And the last thing that it means is that globally people are looking for remote work. So this shift tells me and should tell us in ISAC that this reality that we've shifted into is probably a lot more permanent than we've been treating it in ISAC. So when I saw this and when I was doing the research, I had a kind of click moment that there has to be something that we do. So I thought about, of course, there's a million things that are going through your mind as you enter in this time of replanning, but there is a few that are really easy for us to implement at the MC level and kind of mindsets we can take moving forward into replanning. And we have to ask ourselves, can we keep imitating what was done before? Or should we accept this context and adapt fully? And for me, and hopefully for you, you see that imitating is not going to last us in the long term, but rather accepting this context and adapting fully will help us survive through this and to help ISAC prosper. So, okay, Angela, what do we do now that I've come to this moment of okay, what if I accept it? What do I do next? Well, here is 4 ways to reimagine how we work. This was taken from a few different sources, like the McKinsey & Co. consultancy, but these are the 4 steps. So the first being reconstruct how work is done. 2, make your teams are virtual ready. 3, the do not disturb button. And 4, culture prioritizes trust and belonging. So I have a few ways to lead you guys through this moving forward. So reconstructing how work is done. Number 1, the basics. You have to kill that little voice in your head that says, well, we always did it like this. As MC members, as people who have a lot of ISAC experience and maybe MCPs that have been through this planning process one too many times, we tend to be stuck in this stubborn way of this is how it's been done, or we like to just hold on to those things that have been constant in ISIC, which are very rare. Those things of we do planning in this like 5-day setting where we all sit down and together and do it that way. These things that have been constant, we have to kill that voice in our head that says we always did it like this, and start by assuming that all processes, every part of ISIC, from the membership journey to the way that we educate, to the way that we do planning, to the way that we communicate, all need to be re-envisioned. So I have a few examples. The first, development journeys, thinking about your members, thinking about your MC members, those MCPs here, is that maybe it's physical in the start, but work remotely later. That could be a possibility. And really asking yourselves what parts of the journey are critical for face-to-face interaction in your networks versus the things that can be done on their own or over audio instead of visual. And planning this out ahead of time. Another example is collaboration spaces. How can you reconstruct this? These are things like planning your network identity space, any discussions, and maybe brainstorming is on a different digital channel before. You make everybody write it out before you come to the space that is face-to-face. Maybe we don't go about planning or replanning in the same way that we've gone about it when it was physical. And this allows us to learn how to adapt our processes to the virtual world and not just doing the space how we used to. And then project management. We are used to being able to see execution, especially at the MC level or even local level. We have been able to see people doing the things that we teach them or implementing the changes that we want. But maybe we have to do this in a different way. So maybe it's an initial call to plan and align, but all of the execution is virtual. This could apply to MC strategies. And really asking yourselves what touch points are necessary for implementation and execution. So it's kind of taking this mindset that if we've accepted the reality, it's saying, okay, we're going to start by assuming that literally everything has to be re-envisioned. We can't allow ourselves to assume that it will be able to stay the same. The next is teams are virtual ready. And this one was hard for me to adjust to. And I hope like the MCPs and MC members in here really listen to this, is that leaders need to know how to manage, coach, collaborate, and evaluate performance and motivate their team remotely. This is a skill, a capacity that we have to develop. And this is probably something that every MC member needs to learn, and your LC level needs to learn as well. So think about your national education cycle. I'm including this training in your neck, not just functional training, not just about the new operational changes, but actually admitting that I need to teach my local level how to do one-on-ones in a virtual setting. I need to teach them how to run a team meeting in a virtual setting. And I need to teach them how to collaborate and evaluate performance. This is a skill that wasn't necessarily there before, but as MC members, we have quite often because of the NSTs that we work with or the ESTs that we work with. Then transition. We learned a lot this year. So those of us that have been here for the 6 or whatever, 5 months, 4 months of our term so far, we've learned a lot this experience. And it's important that we transition that to the next like LC class, but also to our successors moving forward. That in the beginning, there were a million things that we were not doing right and mistakes that we made. That question I asked you about, like, what did we do well? What has changed? We need to communicate. And then platforms, get feedback on the digital channels you've been using this semester, and try new things. There's a million of them out there. Here's just a few examples of Slack, Podio, Monday, WhatsApp, Google Sheets, my love, Asana, Trello. There's a million of them. And maybe the one that you're using isn't working correctly for your team, but also maybe your local level doesn't know about these. And this is something you can introduce to them. So that's number 2, teams are virtual ready. Then my personal fave, the do not disturb button. She is incredibly important. And in this context, I think it's really important that we admit what's changing. So continuous remote work extends the workday. It diffuses work-life boundaries and reduces mental well-being. So what that means is that it's become really difficult for us to know the line between I'm looking at my screen for work and I'm looking at my screen for relaxation, because we are around screens so much. In this work-life boundary in the MC world, especially if you're away from your MC and you're not together, it's really hard to know when you've stopped working. So Tip number one, working hours in this context are incredibly important for you to stay sane. I mean, this is just a personal thing, but also something that should apply to you all. Is as someone that manages 5 functions and a lot of VPs, like your turn off button is so important. And you need to set those boundaries for yourself. So like for me on my calendar, my people know that I work like 9 to 5. And like, if you need me like after that, I will be there for like these 4 people and no one else. Like the rest of my network, it's like, no. And I think that's important that you guys set those boundaries for yourself so that way you don't fall into this like insanity. Your members are in virtual class all day. You have to remember that. That virtual fatigue is real. There's very little turnoff now for them because they have class all day and then they're, on social media, and then they're also on ISEC and they're giving up their free off-screen time to being on ISEC. And we need to be empathetic to that. And then third is set boundaries in your new networks. So as you create these new network classes, this is a new area of expectation setting that we haven't had before, where we need to set the expectation together. What are our virtual expectations of each other? What is our off buttons? As the MC member of the network, this is when you can contact me and saying those things. And as MC, we must be conscious of how the work changes affect us and our networks. So like I said, have empathy and put in place those systems to compensate for this change. And the very last one is that you have a culture that prioritizes trust and belonging, meaning that our interpersonal bonds are formed with intent and care, that like we did this in an intentional way. We cannot depend on conferences to do our bonding for us. So no matter how awesome this conference is, I know that I'm not getting the same type of bonding that I would have gotten if it was a physical conference, of course, because we are humans and we want physical interaction. So the way that we approach bonding now has to be in an intentional way. So be intentional. And what I mean by that is, are you still doing network or team bonding the same way you did it before, where you do like introductions to each other, or like, and you both like present to each other? Are you doing like, we're gonna have a game night or something? You really have to change it up. How do you foster an environment of belonging in your teams? Have you asked yourself this question? How do I make sure that somebody feels like they belong? And then, do you have activities planned to help build trust in your teams and networks? Because it's hard to build trust in a virtual context, and you have to be more specific about it. It has to be a strategy, a thing that you want to do to make sure that you have this culture. So those are the 4 ways of reimagining how we work. And moving forward, just remember that reconstruct how work is done means assuming that everything needs to be re-envisioned. Teams are virtual ready means that we have to admit that this is a capacity building and a skill that we have to teach our networks. But do not disturb button means having boundaries, saying like yes and no to this is my work time and this is my life time. And 4 means culture prioritizes trust and belonging. And this means being intentional with the way that we want to have bonding in our networks. So my questions for you as we come to an end is, what have you learned about working in a pandemic? And what mistakes have you made while working in a pandemic? Feel free to share those in the chat. I'm going to pause for a moment for you guys to send that. Okay. So what I've learned about working in a pandemic is that 1, teams can be as close as they are when they're physical. An experience that I had is that my entire like MC operations team of MC directors are from all over the world. Yet we feel very, very close, and we've never met each other in person, and had a moment where we all realized we didn't know how tall each other was because we had never seen each other standing up. But it still felt like family. It still felt like an MC team. And you can still do that in a pandemic. And I'm remembering the steps I took to create that. That's something I can take forward. I've definitely made mistakes as well, like forgetting to have some sort of team project tracker, stuff like that. And these questions that I ask you, you should ask these questions to your LCs as well, because they have learnings as well. And as we have this time of information collection moving into replanning, they're an incredibly important stakeholder that you need to ask these questions to, so that way your replanning can take into consideration the 4 things that I talked about and their learnings and yours as well. So take it forward into replanning. That's the like main thing here, is that this mindset, this way that we're going to work in the pandemic and accept the reality that we have moving forward. And my lasting message for you is that tough choices will come up, and a leader must be empowered to drive the effort across individual functions and businesses. And permanent change will also require exceptional change management skills and constant pivots. So as you move forward into replanning, and the step of everything after in the semester, and hopefully a really amazing peak, is that there's going to be tough choices. And as the MC and MCPs in here, you're the leaders that have to empower the drive, the effort, and require exceptional change management skills. So if you know you don't have that skill yet, it is your responsibility to get it. And if you're an MCP in here, this is something you need to teach your MC members, and make sure that they have this capacity as well. Because if they don't, we won't be able to lead this change and ensure that in this new, possibly permanent reality, we actually adapt. So that's it, guys. That's how we're going to work in this pandemic. Thank you so much. And here is my information if you want to get in contact with me. This is my Insta. Please go follow me. And here's my phone number if any of you want to reach out to me on WhatsApp, and my email as well. It's probably more responsive, but that is it, guys. So thank you so much.